degree is in economics with a minor in Spanish. And staying on par with the theme of this panel, I am not formally utilizing either of those in my current career. Thank you in advance to everyone that submitted questions. And before we jump into those questions, I just want to start and have our panelists introduce themselves. So panelists, we'd love to know your name, what year you graduated, your major, and currently where you are living/working. And who wants to go first?
I guess I can kick it off. Hey, everyone. My name is Zaire Williams. I am formerly a part of the class of 2016. I did a 5-year program, so I graduated 2017 from the University of Vermont. I was a civil engineering major. Not doing that right now. And I currently live in New Jersey. I just got back to New Jersey from Boston. I was in Boston for 2 years. Just came back to visit family and trying to live out in the tri-state area for the next couple of years.
Hey guys, my name's Mallory. I'm a 2008 grad, and my major was religious studies, and I had minors in classics, marketing, and management. And 2 of those minors were largely because I foresaw a nonlinear career path for myself come senior year. So I live in Los Angeles, and I'm currently the Vice President of Strategy and Operations at an ed tech company that's based in Boston called PlatformQ.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michael Hill Jr. or Mike Hill Jr. I use he, him, his pronouns. I am from the graduating class of 2007. I had to think about that. It's been a while. I graduated with a Bachelor's of Arts in English and Poetry concentration in Religious Studies minor. I am not using that degree. As of right now, I am the Substance Misuse Prevention Specialist at UVM. At the Center for Health and Wellbeing, as well as being the founder and sole proprietor of EJHFutures, LLC, which is an equity consultant agency.
Hi, everyone. I am Tayla Rio. I graduated in 2014. My major was English literature with a minor in political science. Currently, I work at Hasbro Toy Company, and I'm an associate product development manager for Hardlines. Go into what that means later, but I currently live in Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
Cool.
Nice. Thank you, everybody. I think we were talking earlier about the silver lining of having a virtual session, and it's so nice to have people represented from all over, you know, the US being able to join us for this. So let's get into our questions. The first question that we have is, Mallory, you kind of touched on this with your minors, but did your major at SMC direct you at all into the field that you're in? Like looking back, do you think that there were any elements to it, or do you think it was just, nope, not even connected?
Yeah, you know, I'll hop in. My current role in strategy and operations and kind of the career path I've taken to get there has largely been focused on marketing and business development. And so my religious studies degree actually has served me very well throughout my entire career because I'm such a huge proponent of the liberal arts education. And I was so fortunate to be able to, after college, actually work for St. Mike's in the admissions office and work with Jerry Flanagan, who always says that a liberal arts degree, oh, and there goes my dog, see you, doggy. He always said that a liberal arts degree doesn't teach you what to think, but how to think. And there's been no skill that has served me better in my entire career than that very notion of learning how to think and how to research and how to problem solve. And I was forced to do that, you know, every single day in the religious studies program. Now, does that have a direct line to heading a client services team and providing client strategy and fixing process operations? No, but the foundation's there, because when I have a challenge that I've never been presented with before, I can rely back on my education that was so foundational at St. Mike's in just the process of how to work through problems.
was trying to find the mute button. I love that of how to think. I think that's really, one of the main benefits of that liberal arts education. You're kind of a chameleon, and I think this panel, even just with our introductions has proven that, it doesn't necessarily matter what the thing is, but how you end up getting, what you need to get. So anybody else have any insight into that question?
I'll take a jab at it. My interesting enough, I don't think what was the specific question again?
Yeah, it was if your major at St. Mike's directed you into this field, or if it was something that you knew, like, nope, like to Zaire's point, like, I'm not into engineering, I'm out.
So not necessarily. My major didn't direct me into my field as much as it assisted me on the path towards my field. When I came to St. Michael's, because I'm originally from Harlem, New York City, I live in Vermont now, and so you'll understand the full circle when I explain this. I'm originally from Harlem, New York City, and so when I came to St. Michael's College to Vermont, I had a racial shock and a culture shock. And the majors that I signed up for, which was secondary education and English, I ended up changing because I had some fear because of around that culture shock and racial shock. And when I graduated from college, I really wanted to tackle that fear, that internal fear that I had. And so I ended up doing AmeriCorps right after college in New Hampshire, which is pretty similar to Vermont. And so because of that experience, it taught me what I wanted to do, which was social work. And so I changed my major, but because of that experience, it actually put me on the right path.
That's awesome. So another question, why did you choose to pursue your current career?
I guess I'll jump in. I don't know how we're doing this order thing, so if I'm jumping in too soon, I'm looking at the mutes. So I guess if someone hops off you, I guess that's like us passing along. So for me personally, I just realized after everyone else went, that's kind of the bad part of going first. I didn't say what I do right now. So I am the founder of a digital marketing company, specifically brand consulting within the digital marketing space. And like I said, I did civil engineering. I really, in turn, realized I didn't want to do that. Just from the experience, I knew it wasn't the people I was working with, and just the lifestyle just wasn't what I wanted to. And I really started the space because I found myself on social media a ton. I came across Gary Vee. If anyone on this is familiar with YouTube or any of that, he is a huge advocate of just of the importance of digital marketing and social media specifically. So I knew I wanted to go down that route. And I just slowly started to snowball into from content creation to social media management to digital marketing to brand consulting. So that's really just how I got into this career. It really just was jumping off a cliff, understanding I didn't want to go left, and just seeing, hey, where is right going to take me? And that's where I'm at right now.
Zaire, I actually fell into my career via social media as well. So that's so interesting to hear you say that. Back in 2009 or so, when I was in admissions, social media was like happening in the world, right? And like Facebook was opening up to outside of .edu emails, and YouTube was like, the popularity was skyrocketing, and Twitter had just come out. And so the college was like, oh man, like we need to get a handle on all of this, and we need somebody to do that. And then they were like, you're young. No, I mean, that's a really, simplifying it. But I think St. Mike's was actually one of the maybe first 10, 20 institutions to actually have somebody in a dedicated social media position within higher education. And it was that like right place, right moment. I saw the opportunity, and someone said, we need someone to do this. And I was like, you know what? Like, you're right, I am young, count me in, like, here we go. And that's where some of that problem solving that I was talking about from the religious studies program, like learning how to learn, really served me well, because I had to teach myself how to film and learn how to shift the camera, just the basic things that somebody in film school would know. YouTube was happening too quick to go back to school. You just had to learn on the job. So again, it's that liberal arts education that kind of paved the way. But I think it's really funny how, even though we're about 10 years apart, social media played such an important role in both of our career progressions.
Nice. That kind of piggybacks. There's a part 2 to that question of like, what does your career path look like? And you guys sort of alluded to, kind of the trajectory of, to Zaire's term, kind of not going left, going right and going right off the cliff. But, you then go to the next spot and then you find, whatever it is that's coming up next. And then you end up being an entrepreneur or being the social media manager at St. Mike's. And now, doing your VP of the company that you're at. Like it's kind of amazing that trajectory can sort of happen that way. What would you say, or what advice would you give to someone who is unsure of what they want to do with their career? Or maybe not even with their career, or with a career.
I can take this one. Just a little personal anecdote. All of my friends have a joke that they say I'm something Barbie Tayla. So, it might be Hasbro Barbie Tayla, maybe it's Peace Corps Barbie Tayla. And so there's so many different versions of me. And I think that one of the things is it's cool not to know. And I think that's advice I would give. Like, I started after St. Mike's, I went right into the Peace Corps. And I served in Mozambique, and I was there for a year, and I was a health volunteer, and I really thought I wanted to go into global health. And, Peace Corps that back then was a 2-year time period. So I ended up coming home after a year and cutting my service short because I just felt myself not engaged with what I was doing. And I just felt a pull back to kind of that English lit that I had studied at St. Mike's. And then I transitioned to a role at Hasbro where I was working on the publishing team. And just in that role, I started, getting involved with digital assets and social media and marketing and, our animation. And then that led me into a role of, product development at large, where now I'm able to look at games and I'm kind of the creative person behind a lot of our licensed products that are at retail. So I just think it's fun not to know. And that's advice I would give people, is just go with it. If you're passionate about something, pursue it. And it might take you somewhere really cool. And if it doesn't, no problem to pivot and move on to something else.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on that. I think if you're listening, everyone's story already, they told you where they are right now. There were a few steps before they got there. That's very typical. And I'm sure there's in a year or two, you're going to see me in a different role as well. I continue to evolve. We evolve. You learn about where you are at that moment. You find out what you like, what you don't like about it. New opportunities will present themselves, and you just decide if you want to take it or not. I think as far as advice goes for determining what career path you want to go down, or if you want to go down your own career path, I work with a ton of interns now. I've been blessed enough to just have a couple of people come work with me over the last couple of years. And one thing I tell them, and I try to do the most of, is just start to talk to people. If you're on this call right now, you're hearing our stories. Take advantage of the SMC network, use social media, go on LinkedIn, send messages to people who might be in a career path you like, ask for 15 minutes and just ask ask questions. How'd you get there? What are you doing right now? Right? Learn a little bit about what they're doing now, and that'll help you identify where you want to go and if that's really where you want to go. And you'll be surprised what you can get out of 15 or 20 minutes on a call. You might get an internship with that person. You might, set up a career path that you weren't even really expecting. So I would really just try to utilize people, ask questions, and have conversations.
I also like reverse engineering career paths. So I think a lot of times when I'm working with my teams, I'll ask them like, where do you want to be in 30 years? Or what's the job you want to retire from? Or what's your dream job? Sometimes that's a little bit easier, even if you're in college. Like sometimes thinking really far out can be a little easier than thinking about what's next. There's less pressure around that. And then if you answer that question honestly, and you know, who knows what you'll answer? Maybe you want to be the like CEO of Swell, or a fashion designer at Tory Burch, like whatever that dream job is, somebody's in it right now. Go find, like you said, go find them on LinkedIn, reach out to them, or reverse engineer their career path, figure out what they took, the steps they took to get there, and what are those kind of sub steps in between. What are the important skills that they need to learn? I always like looking at job descriptions too for those dream jobs, because they can be really telling in terms of the things that you need to know. And a lot of the times you can kind of set up your building blocks from there in terms of the skills you need to be learning at your current job or in school.
I think the last thing I would like to add to every piece of nugget of amazing knowledge that was just added was, don't be afraid to make your own path. And like, honestly, don't be afraid to make your own niche, because sometimes the career that you might be looking for, or the career that you are interested in, might not even exist yet. And that's coming from someone who owns their own company. And I think Zaire could speak to this too as well. So, and I think that question might be coming up.
I was gonna say, should we just segue right into it? I think that was solid. There's a panelist, or excuse me, a register question that came in, and there was also, we had two questions around this, as to kind of how you started your own business. Was it around a passion project, or something that, based on the decisions that you were taking throughout your career, it sort of naturally came about?
Yeah, so I think for me, it was the combination of the two. Like I said, I was always passionate about digital marketing and social media. And then after, I was lucky enough that I had the 5 years, right? So after year 4, everyone I graduated with went into the real world. I said, hey, that's really rough. I need to try to figure something out, right? Or they're having a hard time right now, so I need to try to figure something out. So I was able to kind of position myself, knowing I would have to try to figure it out. And then as far as developing my own business, I started off with creating content. Right after I graduated, I actually went to a networking event with the idea of I wanted to shoot content for people. I really liked how people were editing content on social media. Started on that, met some people that allowed me to shoot content, started doing social media. And then I met someone. I was actually in LA for All-Star Weekend, and came across a founder of a customizable slide company in Boston, shot content for him, right? So I messaged him on Instagram, sent him a DM, saying, hey, look, I'm also in LA. I have a camera. Can we shoot? 5 hours later, I was at a celebrity all-star game with Snoop Dogg and Wiz Khalifa, right? So it happens. It stumbled upon it. He gave me a position to do creative direction for him. That's where I got exposure. And then, that's where I really started to understand social media was such a small part of digital marketing, of branding. And I really love digital marketing and branding. So that's kind of where I tapped in. And then from there, it was just, and that's why I said things evolve. I started the company thinking I was a digital marketing company, and now we're brand consulting. So, and over the course of 2 years, we just slowly defined. After understanding what our customers need, what other businesses are, what they're offering, and kind of how we, like Mike said, our niche within that, right? We are more consulting and branding. It's not just digital marketing. And if anyone's familiar with the space, everyone says they're a digital marketer, but digital marketing is a thousand tiers within that. So it's a lot of just stumbling into certain things and just testing and learning.
And before we get into your story, part 2 of that question would be, what was there was a question about what the first step in your process was to making your own company. And like for you, would you put that, like that moment of that message, on Instagram, to shoot content for, you know, the guy that you were at the All-Star game with? Or was it, you know, what was the first step of you actually being like, all right, we're gonna do this?
For me specifically, my money ran out. I needed to figure out how I was gonna make some money, and then that turns into a business, right? I had the idea; it was a passion, and then I realized, okay, I need to start charging for this, and then I realized, okay, I need a website for this, and then I need a name, and now 2 years later, I'm gonna relaunch my site next week. So it's just a continual process, but it definitely comes down to like a necessity.
Thank you. All right, Mike.
I'm gonna start with that first question of like, what was I guess the catalyst. I think the catalyst for me was I saw the need in the community, and ironically enough, I wanted to do the consulting, the equity consulting for the assistance of a role that I was in at the nonprofit organization I was working for, because I saw the need, and so I was already kind of doing that, and then it wasn't necessarily it just wasn't there, and a very close friend was like, "You're really good at this. Let's do this together." And I was like, okay. And so we continued to do it together outside of that role. And I was like, all right. And so it was a combination, like Zaire said, of a passion and a project. And I think that passion was a lot of different things happened. I became a father. Our world was changing. Our society was changing. And I became a father like 4 or 5 years ago. So you can think about what was happening 4 or 5 years ago. And I was like, I need to do something to assist with how the world was looking. And so honestly, I think my biggest thing was having close friends and mentors tell me, hey, you can do this and you're good at this. And then, like Zaire said, like really talking to people and learning from them, and continue to push yourself and narrow down the niche. And so I think in Vermont, there are a good amount of consultants, equity consultants, but I know for a fact that I know substance misuse and trauma-informed practices, and I know my niche, and I started to narrow down. And so going to EJHFutures.com, you'll see what I focus in. It's mentoring, that's restorative transformative practices, and substance use and equity informed practices within substance misuse and stuff like that. And so thinking about starting your own company, you want to think about, well, what do I really care about? What am I passionate about? What am I good at? Right? And who do I have in my corner? Who's going to lift me up and not take me down or bring me down? And so that was really important to me. And it still happens to this day. I have so many people who continue to lift me up, and I really appreciate that. And I feel blessed about that. So
I love that you both called attention to kind of networking and, you know, even your journey with your friend to start your own company, like surrounding yourself with people and mentors. And, you know, that's kind of part of, I would say, the St. Mike's community, you know, whether you're a student, a prospective student, an alumni, you know, the network is broad, and, you know, reach out to people on LinkedIn, use SMC Connect. You know, you'll see, you know, alumni and students are always willing to help. And I think that's been a key, aside from social media, it's been a key kind of underlining theme of, you know, building your network and asking the questions and talking to people and getting more information.
actually, can I add on to that?
Yeah.
I'm very honored to say one of my connections, and very humbled to say, and very pleased to say that one of my contacts and one of my connections around equity was someone who used to work for SMC, and he was a host who allowed me to, when I was visiting St. Michael's College 2 times, he was a student. And so he used to work for SMC. He's like, hey, do you do this work? SMC needs this work to be done, and brought us in to do work for SMC. So it actually happens in-house all the time.
I love that. Yes. Yes, yes. Thank you guys for your answers. I really appreciate those. So now we'll go back kind of more to the broader questions that we have. This one came in that, and sorry, before I mention this question, if anyone on the call has questions, I can't remember if I mentioned this earlier or not, but feel free to use the chat or the Q&A. You know, we have questions that were submitted, but we can also take questions on the fly too. Are there any skills any skills that you wish you had gained, or experiences you wish you had explored while at St. Mike's?
I would say skiing. I wish I skied. Didn't do too much of that. Every time I bring up that I went to school in Vermont, that's the first thing they ask, and I have to say no.
I was
So
just
that would
gonna
kind of
say, so
be,
what did you do in the winter?
yeah, that was a misstep on my part. So I would definitely say take advantage of that. No, but one thing I would say that I actually is something that I did take advantage of, but I know a lot of my colleagues didn't, was going into Burlington more often, and experiencing the city, and the people there. I actually go back to Vermont. One of my best friends still lives in Burlington, so I go back a couple of times a year. And like I said, I'm in the tri-state. I've done some work really across the country. And whenever someone asks where'd you go to school, I say go to school in Vermont. Burlington is, oh, Burlington. I have a family, I have my cousin's mother's sister lives there. Go over the summer. It's a great city, and it's a great conversation starter. So for as an entrepreneur, I'm meeting a lot of people, and I'm trying to make my impression. And I definitely always start off with, I went to school in Vermont. This is, one, it's a reflection of my experiences, right? Because as Michael said, Vermont, Northeast is very different, from most other places in the country, right? So, they have that connection, that's already, they're favoring you a little bit more than the next. But also, like I said, it just shows, again, for me as an entrepreneur, it just shows how diverse I can be, because I am from New Jersey. I did experience 5 years in Vermont, and I speak really very highly of it still. So if you're there now, if you're going there, if you can go back, definitely experience Burlington and take it for what it is.
I'm going to say the winter sports too. I'm hoping to get into snowboarding this year, but I think I'm losing my window. I did not do that at St. Michael's, and I wish I would have. I did go skiing one time, and I felt like I played a rugby game because I was on a rugby team, and I actually did feel that. I felt that way. It hurt. But it's pretty hard to answer this question right now because of COVID. And at the same time, I think you can still think outside of the box, because that's what I've experienced during this time. I feel very fortunate. I have a handful of some mentees, and we share a very common interest in anime. And so I'm really into anime, and that ended up me having a international friend that I got to meet through an anime forum. And I talked to this person who lives in Japan. And so me and my mentees are planning on taking a trip to Japan 2 summers from now. And so that wouldn't have happened if we didn't have this virtual platform going on. And so what that leads to me, what I'm saying is studying abroad. I wish I would have studied abroad as an SMC student, and I didn't get to do that. And so although COVID is happening, you can find other ways to reach across the sea or go to other countries. My way is speaking to someone who lives in another country over a common interest right now and connecting that to a few mentees, that is really, really enjoyable. And so I would say that.
If I can jump off to what Mike just said, I totally agree. And I did take advantage of St. Mike's study abroad program. So I actually went to South Africa and studied there. And, one of the classes I took was queer literature. And at the time, I wasn't out to anybody and I didn't even really know about myself. And that class kind of just helped me understand who I was. And then I came home and I started to, explore my sexuality, whatever. And from there, it's really led me to becoming more of a presence in my community. So I came back. Now I lead the Pride Network at Hasbro, and I'm also involved in a nonprofit in Rhode Island that works with LGBTQ youth. So I would say whether you go abroad for, school purposes or just to have a good time or something, you will undoubtedly learn something about yourself. And maybe it's more of a personal thing, a professional thing, but whatever that is, whatever that learning is, it will help you and make you a better person and make you grow. So that was how important studying abroad was to me. And I 100% think everybody should do it if you can.
Yeah, study abroad was one of my favorite experiences for sure. And I think it was when I was abroad that I really kind of realized that maybe my major was not lined up to what I was looking to do with my career, and had, fortunately the opportunity to come back and pick up those minors in marketing and management, realizing I was probably more on a business path. So it's always interesting when you find out what you don't want to do just as much as you find out what you do want to do sometimes. But the one thing that I would say to answer your original question is that St. Mike's is so great with leadership opportunities. And I see Paul had asked a question about athletics in the chat. I can't speak to that because that was maybe the only area at St. Mike's that I didn't get involved in. But there are, scores of leadership opportunities through MOVE, through student government, and more. And I am always astounded. Maybe I didn't appreciate it enough at the time, but how much responsibility is given to the students in those programs. I think back to student government my senior year, and there were, 8 or 9 of us making really big decisions about really big budgets for an entire student body. And that is invaluable, to be able to say you helped manage a budget of that size for a 2,000, population student body. Those were just the types of experiences that I think helped me realize where I wanted my career to go, but were giving me some of the hard and soft skills in the process to be successful with those next steps.
Thank you guys for your responses. And I can actually take Paul's question because I was a student athlete while at St. Mike's. So how did athletics prepare you for your career? I just answered this question from a survey that came out from the women's soccer team literally today. But I think it's just that life is a team sport. When you're playing a sport, you obviously have your team. Even if it's an individual sport like cross country, you're still part of a larger team that you're all going towards the same goal. And that team is going to change throughout life. It's going to be, your family. It's going to be your coworkers. It's going to be your friends, and learning, the skills of what's meant to be a good team player. So, sometimes it's not 50-50. Maybe it's 90-10 and you're doing the 90 and someone else is doing the 10. Maybe you're doing the 10, somebody else is doing the 90. And, finding that balance and using those opportunities to, grow and learn and, take the opportunities and to learn from them and just continue. I keep going back to life's a team sport, there's always going to be people that you're interacting with. So for me, athletics, really helped in that sense of kind of how to play nice in the sandbox, I guess, with others.
Yeah. And I just want to add to that team element as well, because I was on the basketball team at St. Mike's, and two things, yes, teamwork, working with team, especially as an entrepreneur, like building a team, developing that team. But two things that I've noticed, and I've had this conversation with some of my interns actually before, is one is learning how to be led as well. I just, because I'm an entrepreneur and I'm the founder, I'm a mentee as well. I have mentors, and sometimes that's tough. Just like my way might not always be the right way. So whether I'm a freshman and they're seniors, learning from them, or like that relationship with your coach, I think that's also like extremely important. You need to be willing to kind of step back a little bit, listen to what's being told to you, understand that you might be wrong, and make those changes. And then secondly, losing, right? I experienced that a good amount of my time at St. Mike's. But the thing with that is, there's always another game, right? There's always another game. And how do you respond to that? So, we've had good seasons, we had bad seasons. And in those good seasons, we lost games, right? But it's just that response. In life, it's going to be the same, especially, everyone on this panel, different career path. I'm sure that we had times where we were trying to figure out, okay, what is next? I really feel like I did lose, but there's always another game. There's always another day. And that might sound cliche, but it's legit. It happens.
Yeah.
And that mindset and understanding, okay, let me, and in basketball, it's let me get back to the gym. And in life, it's okay, let me apply again. Let me see what else I can do for myself, to kind of get me into that position.
I think the preparedness of it too, like you don't just, I use the analogy of soccer. Messi didn't just wake up as a professional best in the world athlete, like he practiced and trained and researched and did all this work to be the best in the world. And, you can take that training and that research and that preparedness into your job or into your relationship. So kind of mirroring it, the game changes, but your steps to get into, to play the game can kind of be the same.
Or even learning the game.
Exactly.
I think being a student athlete for me was really new because I came from playing football to playing rugby, and I just wanted to play a contact sport, and St. Michael's College didn't have football, and they were like, well, you should try rugby. And I was like, I have no idea what rugby is. And I saw it and I was like, I love this and I have to learn it from scratch. And so I think another thing to add on is that willingness to learn something completely new and literally fall down and get back up, and it hurt, and being completely different. And so I think as a student athlete in that regards, what Zaire was saying with owning your own company, I had to learn from the ground up. So that's an aspect of being an entrepreneur. You don't know sometimes.
So we had a question come in. The question is, how did you go about getting your first job out of college? Did you get a job in the field right away? And what work did you show to earn that job?
Can I take this one off the bat?
Yeah.
So I'm really proud to say I was a residential assistant. I was an RA at St. Michael's College for 3 years. And Mallory remembers that. So that job experience, that work experience as being an RA has carried me all the way to my master's, my first graduate degree on my resume. So it didn't come off my resume until until after my master's degree. But that was like the first work experience that got me into AmeriCorps, because that's what I did right after college. Because I needed to figure out what I wanted to do via career path, and AmeriCorps was something that I wanted to do because I always wanted to work with kids, and I wanted to challenge myself and get over my fear. So I always knew that I wanted to work with children. So that, at least that was at my core. But being an RA really was the good job experience around, like, oh, you can be a wonderful team member, a good team player, good communication skills, good leadership. You know how to take guidance and direction. You could be a mentor. So, yeah.
I'll hop in. Every job, not just the first one I got out of college, but every job since has been thanks to my network. So, you know, I can bring a ton of skills or knowledge or whatnot, but for some reason, it's all been through the network I've built, both from St. Mike's and then through the industry, the higher ed industry, which I've been in since I graduated. So I think that there is so, like you were saying, Jillian, earlier, like the SMC Connect, like get in touch with people, reach out on LinkedIn, like building that network is so incredibly important. And it starts, you know, when you're a student and a young alum. And I was so fortunate that, you know, I like ran into St. Mike's current, you know, former director of admissions just in Burlington, and she was like, oh, we have a position open. And I applied the next day, and then 2 days later I had an interview, and then I was hired, you know, and that never would have happened had I not known her and not gotten lucky and run into her. So I think the network is extremely important, and I think we're so fortunate at St. Mike's to have the type of network that we do with the type of alum who are so generous with their time and really willing to make those connections.
I totally agree with what Mallory just said. And I also know for a fact that one of the reasons why I got my first job was because I sent a handwritten thank you note to the person that interviewed me. And I know that because he kept the note on his desk for like a month after I was still in the job. And I think there's small details like that, you know, of course, a network is incredible in all things, but just some of the little tiny details when you're going for an interview or when you're thinking about what you want to do and where you want to be. It's like when you're in an interview, try to think of one or two pieces of information that really resonate with you. And whether it be an email, or I would always recommend sending a handwritten note, just because again, it's something tangible that someone can hold on to and say, wow, I never get physical mail anymore. This is cool. Let me put it on my wall, you know, and including one or two things you learned and just making people that interview you feel like what they said was important. I think that's really something that goes a long way. And everyone wants to feel appreciated and, you know, like their time was worth spending. So I definitely think that that's just a key thing to take with you as you're looking for a job, any job, no matter at what point in your career.
Yeah, and so tapping into the network, I agree. I have a client right now that's from SMC. He was actually a senior when I was a freshman. So definitely that, but just if you don't have the network, if you feel like, hey, what's another angle? I always tell people, just start doing things now. If you have an idea, you can do something that's like baseline. You know, for me, it was, I wanted to do digital marketing. I didn't have the background for digital marketing, so I started shooting content, right? That was the closest thing I can get so I can have a resume. Think of, you know, it's similar to Mallory said, that, you know, looking reverse engineering, right? What do you need to have on your resume now? You don't even need to say you got hired for it. Just you can do it. You know, if it is content, go out and shoot the content. You know, if it's writing, you should be writing stuff. Now is the time where you can put your stuff out there as it is now. So take advantage of that, so that when you are in these meetings, you are in these interviews, or you do get in that position, you can speak on it because you've actually had some experience and you kind of have something on your resume that's tangible.
Nice. So we are at 7:45. I think we have a few more minutes, so hopefully we can get to a couple more questions before we wrap up. One did just come in from the Q&A. How did you choose St. Mike's as a college versus a traditional university?
Truthfully, I got a basketball scholarship.
Yeah, good job.
So I would not, thank you. I would not have known about Vermont as a state otherwise, just because I was very sheltered in New Jersey. But very happy I did it. And for people who are considering St. Mike's over another, the liberal arts degree, especially now, is something you can hang your hat on. Mallory mentioned it earlier on, learning, or I forget how she worded it. For me, it's learning how to learn, right? You're going to be learning, whether it's entrepreneurship or not. You're going to be put in a position where you haven't been taught the X's and O's. If you're hired under someone too, you're going to have to learn how to do that. And St. Mike's really gives you the opportunity to do that in a variety of different ways. You're in you're in this chemistry class, and then you're in your religion class, and then you have to, for me, it was math or engineering or something similar. So you're going to be in different situations, whether you take the traditional path or not. And St. Mike's as liberal arts university or college allows you, kind of puts you in that position earlier on.
I think for me, very similar. I did know where Vermont was, just being from Massachusetts. It wasn't that far away. But I was recruited to play soccer, and I did want to snowboard. So Wachusett Mountain wasn't cutting it for me anymore. So I came up here for pursuit of soccer and snowboarding. And probably the most important reason, I really appreciated the liberal arts well-roundedness. I wasn't looking to be kind of funneled into something. I liked the broadness of that. And I also appreciated the small class size. That was something just for my learning style that's important. And I just thrive in an environment that has a smaller student faculty ratio.
Yeah, ditto.
Oh, sorry.
You go.
That's one of the reasons I also chose St. Mike's, and how I actually found out about St. Mike's was by speaking with somebody on the phone. I know I was looking at a ton of different colleges, and I called someone that I knew had gone there, and they just gave a raving review. So I went to visit, and then I saw tons of people laying out in like bikinis on the lawn when it was like 40 degrees or something. And I thought, wow, this is crazy and incredible. But again, then, the small class size really drew me. And also St. Mike's emphasis on service, I think, is something else that I just felt drawn to. The fact that it's not only about getting a great education, but it's about being a good person and learning from the experience of others. And I think that's something that St. Mike's has that's really unique and different from a lot of other places.
Yeah, I graduated with a class size from high school of 36. So I knew that going to a school like the size of UVM, for example, would have just been like total culture shock to me. So the small class sizes was absolutely, that personal attention, that was so huge. I love that you mentioned the service aspect, because that reminded me another key reason why I picked St. Mike's was because of the affiliation to the Edmondites and the fact that it is a Catholic institution. And I think that the way that that plays out at St. Michael's College is so beautiful. And I had so many friends who were from many, many different religious backgrounds, but who all felt the connection to something higher than themselves. And a lot of that played out through service and through the MOVE program. And the fact that those opportunities just existed, and anybody can just jump on them, it was beautiful. And it was clear as a prospective student that St. Mike's was the type of place that wanted to get, students who were going to be really involved, students who were looking for those opportunities. And that spoke to me a lot.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat with Zaire. I had the wonderful opportunity of getting a full academic scholarship. And I had visited St. Michael's like 2 times, but I didn't know where Vermont was until I visited like the first time. And so I also chose St. Michael's College because of the class size. I actually wanted to talk to my professors. I wanted to engage with my academic advisor and not be a number. So it was very, very important to me. And I think I was also very fortunate to find community on campus too, in various different capacities. So one of the reasons why I chose St. Michael's. And I think another thing that has been a common theme throughout is that cultivation of critical thinking. So you get that opportunity to learn how to learn. And I say that's critical thinking. So you're going to continue to do that anyways after you get your undergraduate degree, wherever you go. I'm still continuing to learn, and I'm pretty sure everybody else here is still continuing to learn throughout their professions and doing research and being better and improving themselves. So.
Thank you for that, everybody. That was great. Do you think, so there's, I think we could do one more question. It's a quick one, because I'm also very curious about this too. How many career changes have you had since graduating college? We can like rapid fire a number. I think I've had 4. 5. Nope, 5.
I'd say 4 as well. Yeah.
3.
How do you define career? Okay, I'm gonna say 2. You say career is career or jobs? I'm saying 2.
I feel like I found my career. I don't know. I'm still looking for my career. We'll figure it out. All right. So let me see. We could probably start to wrap up. I know we have, I just thought I was on mute there for a second. Awesome. Going with 3, Mike? Changing it? All right. Nice. So maybe we can do some wrap up. Because we are just about at, well, I don't know. We still got time. Let's do one more. I'm feeling it. What's the best piece of advice? So I have to be short because we're almost at 5 minutes. The best piece of advice that you could give a senior in college right now.
Guess I'm kicking it off first again. I would say, I said already earlier, talk to people, but also just do and try. Don't, you're not gonna know. You're not gonna really know like the end game right now, and part of getting to the end game is trying and figuring it out to get there. So don't think you're gonna come out and find a perfect job right away. Maybe you will, but that getting experience is going to allow you to really define what a perfect job really means to you. Right now, you can't, it's really hard to identify even what that is. So I would just say try and talk to people, use LinkedIn, use social media. I know I'm the social media advocate on this call, but like tweet someone, slide into DMs, LinkedIn message. It's very, very powerful.
Don't freak out over change. Change is the only constant right now. I know it sounds cliche. It's during COVID. Do not freak out over change. It's the only constant right now. I think everything that Zaire just said is golden. But the best thing you could do is do not freak out over change. And you will
I could probably be better at that.
And you will fall on your face. So just get back up, wash it off, and keep on going.
Pedal really hard in the trike race, because if you're fortunate enough to have a P day this year, just live it up.
Pedal.
Pedal so hard. No, I think if I was a senior in college right now, networking would be obviously really huge. Social media, also a huge proponent too. But also, like, I think give yourself the grace to know that we've had a really, really hard 10 to 12 months. And it's okay to not know, and it's okay to question, and it's okay to graduate and still feel like you're not sure where you want your career to go. Those are all normal, natural things. And especially after the last 10 months that we've all just lived and experienced, like, let yourself feel those feels, right? And give yourself the permission to go easy on yourself in the moments where you need to give yourself the grace. Obviously, that doesn't mean not to try hard or to take the opportunities when they're presented to you, but I think we can all give ourselves that permission right now.
Yeah, and show up. I think if you get an opportunity or if you land something that you really wanted to be involved in, show up. I think 90% of doing a good job is just being in the room and listening and understanding, maybe not being the smartest, but learning from those around you. So definitely show up. And again, go easy on yourself. Even if you have the best thing going, it's not always 100% and life happens. So just let yourself know that it's going to be okay no matter what. And life will work out the way it's supposed to work out.
Thank you, everybody. Excuse me. So I guess that's about time. I just want to extend a sincere thank you to our panelists for your discussion and your responses, and to our attendees for your thoughtful questions. We hope that you were able to glean kind of some insights and some takeaways and tips, and know that, you know, each career journey is just as individualized as all of us, and it doesn't have to necessarily go in a straight line. And odds are it probably won't. If it does, it might, you never know. But thank you again for joining, everyone, and, you know, have a great rest of your night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.